fire crackled under the canopy of ancient trees, its flickering light casting eerie shadows that danced across the faces of the 5 campers. The air smelled of pine and smoke, and the occasional rustling of leaves in the night added to the ambience. This trip was supposed to be an escape from the chaos of their daily lives, a chance to reconnect and unwind. Instead, an unspoken unease hung over the group. "All right, who's got a scary story?" Mike asked, his voice tinged with excitement. Athletic and always the daredevil, Mike was the self-proclaimed leader of the group. He leaned back on a log, poking the fire with a stick. "Not me," said Sarah, brushing her auburn hair back nervously. The med student always had a practical mind, but a fragile heart when it came to horror. "The woods are creepy enough without adding ghost stories to the mix." "Oh, come on," Liz chimed in, rolling her eyes. Liz, the sarcastic artist, had a sharp tongue and an even sharper sense of humor. "It's just a bunch of trees and squirrels. We'll be fine." "What about you, Jake?" Mike turned to the shy techie who was fiddling with his flashlight. Jake shrugged, avoiding eye contact. "I'm good. Let's just keep it chill." That left Emma, the youngest and most free-spirited of the group. She stared into the fire, her hazel eyes reflecting the flames. "I'll tell one," she said softly, "but only if you promise not to scream like babies when you're trying to sleep." The group laughed nervously as Emma launched into a story about a haunted cabin. Her voice was hypnotic, weaving tension into every word. The others leaned in, captivated. But just as Emma reached the climax of her tale, a loud snap echoed from the darkness. Everyone froze. "Probably just an animal," Mike said, though his eyes darted toward the trees. "Relax." "An animal?" Liz mocked. "Like a bear? Oh yeah, that's so much better." Jake tightened his grip on the flashlight. "Should we check it out?" he asked, his voice wavering. "No way," Sarah said firmly. "We stay together. Whatever it was, it'll go away if we don't bother it." The group hesitated, the fire's glow suddenly feeling too small, too fragile. After a moment, they resumed their uneasy banter. But the mood had shifted. The laughter was forced, the smiles strained. Something was wrong. Hours later, the group began to settle down for the night. The fire had died to embers, and the forest was cloaked in an oppressive silence. Emma stirred in her sleeping bag, unable to shake the feeling of being watched. She'd always trusted her instincts, and right now, they were screaming at her to stay awake. "Guys," she whispered, sitting up. "Do you hear that?" Sarah groaned. "Hear what?" "Go to sleep." But then Jake sat up too. "She's right. It's too quiet. No insects, no wind. That's not normal." Before anyone could respond, a guttural noise pierced the night, a low, animalistic growl that sent chills down their spines. Mike shot up, grabbing a makeshift weapon, a heavy branch from the ground. "Stay here," he said. "I'm checking it out." "Are you insane?" Sarah hissed, grabbing his arm. "You don't go alone." "Fine," he snapped. "Jake, come with me. The rest of you, stay by the fire." Jake hesitated, but nodded. The two disappeared into the shadows, their flashlight beams flickering against the trees. Minutes passed, each one stretching into eternity. Then, a scream tore through the forest, high-pitched and agonized. The campers bolted upright. "Mike!" Emma shouted, but there was no answer. Only the sound of Jake's panicked footsteps returning. "He's gone," Jake panted, his face pale. "Something took him. We need to leave, now." Panic erupted. Liz grabbed her backpack. Sarah tried to call for help, but her phone had no signal. Emma's mind raced. "We're not alone," she thought, "and whatever's out there is playing with us." As they debated their next move, a figure emerged from the darkness. At first, they thought it was Mike, but as the figure stepped into the firelight, they saw it was a stranger. He was tall and wiry, his face hidden behind a crude mask made of bark and moss. "Lost something?" he rasped, holding up Mike's flashlight. It was smeared with blood. Sarah screamed, and Liz grabbed a knife from her bag. "Stay back," she warned. The man tilted his head, like a predator studying its prey. "You shouldn't have come here," he said. "This forest isn't yours. It's mine." Before they could react, the man lunged, disappearing into the trees with unnatural speed. The group scattered in terror, running blindly through the forest. Emma stayed close to Jake, her heart pounding. She could feel the killer's presence, as though the forest itself was alive and hunting them. One by one, the campers were picked off. Sarah's cries were cut short as she vanished into the underbrush. Liz fought back, slashing at the killer, but he was too quick. She fell, her screams echoing in the night. Emma and Jake stumbled into a clearing, their breaths ragged. "Why is he doing this?" Jake gasped. Emma's mind raced. She remembered the man's words. "This forest isn't yours." "I think he's protecting it," she said, "like we're intruders." Jake shook his head. "That's insane. People come here all the time." "Maybe," Emma replied, her voice trembling. "But maybe we did something to set him off." Before Jake could answer, the killer appeared, his mask glinting in the moonlight. "You defiled it," he growled. "Your fire, your noise, your garbage. You poisoned my sanctuary." Emma stepped forward, her fear giving way to anger. "We didn't mean to," she said. "Let us go, and we'll leave. We won't come back." The killer hesitated, then laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "You think it's that simple? This forest doesn't forgive. Neither do I." With that, he lunged. Emma pushed Jake out of the way, but the killer grabbed her. She fought with everything she had, managing to rip the mask from his face. What she saw froze her blood. It wasn't a man, or at least not anymore. His face was twisted, inhuman, with eyes that glowed faintly green. He looked like the forest itself had claimed him, vines growing from his skin. Jake screamed, and Emma realized he was next. Summoning her last ounce of strength, she kicked the killer and ran. She didn't stop until she reached the edge of the forest, collapsing onto the road. Jake never followed. Days later, authorities found no trace of the killer or her friends. The forest remained silent, as though it had swallowed their secrets whole. But late at night, hikers reported hearing whispers, soft, haunting, and filled with an unmistakable warning, "Stay away."